We have some interesting information in the Lilly and Jack Sullivan case. If you guys remember Cody Sullivan, their father, well, his mother, Belinda, has a lot to say. Belinda Gray, seen here, loves her grandchildren and wants to see them come home, but she does not believe they are alive. She said she did this very difficult interview to keep Lilly and Jack's name out there in the spotlight. Belinda describes Malaya and Cody's relationship as almost picture perfect until Malaya came to her and told her how unhappy she was. Malaya took the kids, petitioned for full custody, and Cody just threw his hands up and wanted nothing more to do with any of it. Belinda, in an effort to maintain her relationship with her grandkids, decided to keep in contact with Malaya. She also described some tidbits about law enforcement, about how law enforcement came there and asked her a bunch of questions and then left, checked to make sure where her son was, got pictures of their car in a second interview, and then they came and formally interviewed Belinda and then went and got Cody and formally interviewed him in the police cruiser. Now, she said her interview was roughly about 2 hours and his was about an hour and a half. She said she didn't really mind anything she can do to help. And Cody was a little flustered because he was made to feel bad as if he had something to do with it. But I will report law enforcement has called her and it sounds like they cleared Cody. However, in this article, she used past tense in referring to Lilly and Jack, as she truly believes Lilly and Jack are unalive. And it breaks her heart, and she just wants justice, and she wants to keep their name public. This is Belinda Gray, and she is doing what she can to find her grandkids. If you have any information to the whereabouts of Lilly, 6 years old, or Jack, 4 years old, out of Lansdowne Station, Nova Scotia, Canada, please reach out to the Royal Canadian Police. God bless each and every one of you, and we'll see you soon. Lilly and Jack Sullivan, which disappeared from their trailer in Lansdowne Station, Nova Scotia, Canada. They haven't been seen or heard since. We kind of have some good news, but kind of like we already knew news. So I'm reporting that, hey, who else coming in here? I'm missing a few people. Hold on here. I'm moving too fast. Hey, Donna. Vibes be positive. It's nice to see you as well. Hello, Belinda. It's nice to see you. Ashley. Hey. So I've been reporting that the father is cleared because it sounds like they did formal interviews. They went to the house. They got Belinda Gray is the grandmother, the biological grandmother. Cody Sullivan is these two children's biological father that's not in their life. He hasn't been in their life for 3 years. But there is another oddity that I'm going to probably talk about that I forgot to include in the video. It just, when you're doing some stuff, you try to remember stuff. Probably why I need to write it down, go do my timeline, but sometimes when you're in a rush, you just need to put stuff together. You just kind of push the stuff together and get it out. And that's kind of what happened. But there was one perspective that I didn't take into consideration until I was on my live on the YT tonight. And it was listening to Belinda's story. And again, for those that are coming in, Belinda is the biological grandmother to these kids, not Malaya's mother, Cody Sullivan, their bio dad, which is not in their life. The grandmother, which was involved in their life up until, she moved in with Malaya moved in with Daniel, and then their relationship just stopped existing. So she never got to see her grandchildren again. But it was the story she told about the relationship that they had, that Cody and Malaya had together. And she almost talked about it like it was picture perfect type of relationship. And of course, it sounds like they obviously had 2 kids. And then Malaya, started approaching Belinda and telling her she wasn't happy. And normally we know that in any relationship, if their parents are separated, there was obviously some contention, some unhappiness, right? But what I did find quite interesting is that would have been around the same time, within a 6-month window, 4 to 6 month window of when all of this kind of transpired after she had Meadow. So she had Jack, right? And when he was about a year old, 12 months, 13 months, 14 months, she got unhappy. And just out of the blue decides she's unhappy with her man. She wants the kids. She wants to leave him. And he's, was like, what the heck? And she went for full custody and he wasn't doing it. He wasn't going to fight her. It doesn't sound like he comes from a lot of means. Doesn't sound like he has the best job in the world. It sounds like he's not working right now at all. So he's having a hard time taking care of himself, let alone 2 children. But it's the timing that this abrupt change happened in Malaya. And if you look at the timeline, it happened at a certain window after she had Jack. And we're dealing with her distancing herself from the kids, according to what we learned from Daniel Mardell's cousin, is that after she had Meadow, she didn't really have a whole lot to do with Jack and Lilly. And then by the time Meadow's 16 months, Jack and Lilly are gone. Kind of like how she went from Cody between the same time frame after having a child. So I think that this is interesting. I don't know what it means, but I do believe it's something. To have the last 2 pregnancies and something major happen at around the same developmental stage of that child. So what I'm trying to say is it feels like it's almost a hint of prolonged postpartum depression. Or maybe delayed postpartum depression. I feel like there's something more here now that I heard Belinda's story and kind of how everything happened between her and Cody, from Belinda's side of the story. We're not going to get Malaya's side of the story. And then the other critical takeaway out of this interview that I think is important is now we have a major inconsistency, and it was not included in my latest video that I just dropped. And that major inconsistency is we all heard Malaya's interview. We know Malaya had only one interview. It was on May 3rd, and she talks very specifically about what happened that led to them realizing the children were missing. And one thing that was a takeaway on that is that she's the one that noticed the house was quiet. According to her own statement, she looks over at Daniel and says, I don't hear the kids. Remember that? If you don't recall, go back and listen to her interview. She's the one that noticed the kids were silent. Well, in this latest interview with Daniel Martell, now he's saying that. He's saying he looked over to Malaya and said, I don't hear the kids, or something to that effect, as opposed to Malaya saying that to him. That is a critical and a very, very important inconsistency. One that neither one should have incorrect. So I'm still going through this. I'm going to analyze it a few more times. You got my first impression of it. I may have a follow-up video after I have, some time to process the behavior. And I can tell you there's something about the way Daniel looked when he said what the officers said. He said something like, the lady asked him, well, what did you do with polygraph? And he said, well, he was very nervous, especially after the first question they asked, because they asked him if he, unalived Lilly and Jack. That was the first question, allegedly by him. But it was what he says when they told him he passed. She asked him, well, did you have to wait for your results? And he goes, no, I got them right there. And she's like, well, what did he say? They're like, good job, you passed. And I'm like, huh? Good job, you passed. Now, I have watched a lot of law enforcement in this case. And this is what I was telling my audience on the YT. I'm like, these officers are like sticks, okay? They're like, I don't see them being attaboy,
you go, boy, we got this, you did a great job, you passed. I just don't see the Royal Canadian Mounted Police being like that. And that was kind of like the impression he was trying to convey, when it came down to his polygraph. So, anyways, I'm not going to bore you with the details. Just wanted to let you guys know that we did drop a video, and there were a few things that I omitted. So I might make a few follow-up videos on the commentary. But I think if you haven't read Belinda Gray's story about the kids, I think you're going to find some great interest in it, because I think there was a lot of takeaways personally for me from that, and it really did give us kind of a little behind the scenes and perspective of Malaya. And I think all of you that are invested in the Jack and Lily case will want to see that. So anyways, you guys have an amazing night. I love you guys. God bless you. If you guys want to be part of it, I know TikTok's a little different than YouTube, but I am doing like a 4 or 5 hour live on YouTube tomorrow about Sebastian Rogers. We're going to walk through the case, but it's really kind of the second segment of the show that's going to be ultra important. We're going to start our planning and strategizing for our Operation Angel Wings. Now, Operation Angel Wings is the collective voice coming together lovingly, and we're going to be going to Tennessee, and we're going to put on a demonstration for the governor. And this is going to be one that's of love, and they've done great strides. Just this last week, they put into law 177 new laws that will be active on July 1st. They're making steps in the right direction. They're really increasing penalties for child stuff, okay, in Tennessee. It was I went over it on my YouTube channel, and it was good. It's not enough, as you guys know, but if you guys would like to participate in working on Sebastian and this whole thing, it's not going to be specifically for Sebastian. It's a lot broader than that. It's for child laws. It's for advocacy for crimes and criminals. And it's just, letting the governor know he's got a lot of support to toughen up penalties. But if you guys would like to participate in that and be on the committee to help that, we'll be doing that tomorrow from 10, I think it's 10 to 3. No, 10 to 2. It's 10 to 2. I think we're going to end between 2 and 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So if you guys would like to swing by, please swing by. Otherwise, just keep spreading the news and keep these faces out there and keep them going. So hopefully somebody comes across one of these cases and might have the information law enforcement needs. That's what it's all about.
We have been covering the case of Travis Decker, which unalived his 3 beautiful girls, Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. The manhunt has spanned across multiple counties in Washington, Chelan, Catitas, and other bordering counties. He has been on the run, and they have been kind of identifying where they believe he is. As you can see, he picked up the children in Wenatchee, took them to the Rock Island campground. They believe he tried to bypass the Alpine Lake wilderness by doing this L-shaped pattern to get around, and I still believe they think he's heading to Canada. People have really been coming out and showing the honor and respect to these 3 beautiful angels. But law enforcement wants us to remember that Travis could have changed his appearance, and they want you to know what he may look like in various forms of facial hair and head hair. The manhunt is still underway, and we are seeking any information to Travis Decker's whereabouts. If you know anything, please reach out to law enforcement immediately. Is Travis Decker getting help from third parties? Are people really sympathetic to Travis Decker? Sheriff Mike Morrison is saying that there are some people that appear to be sympathetic to Travis Decker's cause. What? If you don't know, Travis Decker is wanted for unaliving his 3 beautiful girls on May 30th, 2025. They found their bodies on June 2nd in the afternoon after 3 p.m. at Rock Island Campground. There has been a massive manhunt that started in Chelan County and has spread out to the bordering counties. The last possible location law enforcement gave us was Cle Elum, And since then, we haven't really heard anything more about their manhunt, except Sheriff Morrison's most recent statements, where he stated that it is possible that Travis Decker could be receiving help from these sympathizers. I really don't know where Travis Decker is, but I'm not on the same mindset as everybody else. And I did hear Sheriff Morrison state he's unsure if he's dead or alive. And I truly feel like this man is still back at Rock Island Campground somewhere. And I haven't been able to shake that. And so far, there hasn't been anything that has solidified that they're chasing him in the areas that they are.
The reason why I'm laughing is because she was up on my back. And you guys couldn't see her. The green screen cut her out. Anyways, I hope you guys are doing great this Thursday morning. I'm Bullhorn Betty. I cover true crime. This is Delilah Bullhorn. She's the crime-fighting dog. She's got her little vest on. She got it dirty yesterday, playing in the dirt after a bath. Gotta love it. So anyways, I wanted to give you guys some updates. How can you not wake up in a happy day with a face like this? Oh, dear goodness, dear goodness. Hi, Miss Delilah. Hi, Miss Delilah. Who couldn't use a little dose of cuteness before we get into gunkiness? Oh, little baby girl. Little baby girl. That's my pride and joy right there. She's just an angel. She really is. Anyways, guys, wow. Manhunt is still underway. I don't know if they haven't found anything. What's going on with this Travis Decker manhunt? They're using this other case. We might start breaking that other case down to find out, did they find anything when they were searching for him? Were people talking about him? Because the other case ended up being a person calling in somebody staying in a cabin that was supposed to be vacant. So that's how that other case, from my understanding, came to a close. And they said it's very similar to Travis Decker. Let me see if I can just raise this up just a tad so I can get my head out of his face so you guys can see him. And it's weird because so far they haven't really given us any connection. Think about it. When it comes to Travis Decker, they haven't said they found this and it's connected to him. This is his toothbrush. This is his, body functions. This is his footprint. Everything has always fallen short in their press conferences of identifying anything that connects him. And I'd like to review that other case that they're referring to see if they found anything at this point. They said that it stretched more than 3 weeks. So I do anticipate, but I'd have to think that there was something that they found that they kind of knew that they might be on the right track. But I didn't watch the whole interview. So I'll have to watch the interview as, probably here, because I'm going to have to figure out who this case is, what were the details of it, what were the factors in that case, and what were the similarities and what were dissimilarities, things that weren't similar. Hey, Belinda, it's nice to see you, love. I hope you're doing well. But this is him. Now, one thing I have to say, and this is probably just my complaint, I'm sorry, I'm picky. I'm a picky woman, okay? And I know that, and I own it. But in today's technology, this is great artistry. I get it. But I'd like it a little more crystal clear. And I feel like this isn't crystal clear. Like, I don't know. It seems a little hazy. Am I wrong? It doesn't seem like, and this is what's being passed around, and I blow it up, and it looks like it was drawn by someone as opposed to being digitally enhanced. And when you digitally enhance something, I feel like it just crisps up. Like you see the difference in my image, my face, and the haziness of their face. Even though I'm in bad lighting and everything, I'm defined. I'm crystal clear. You can see the shine on my glasses. I just like crystal clear. And maybe that's the video editing or the thumbnail editor, the photo editor in me that just likes that stuff crystal clear. So, anyways, I figured I would, just come and talk to you guys about this case because I'm still on the fence and I haven't gotten off the fence in weeks. And I know law enforcement knows what they're doing, but they've never satisfied this gut, because I was part of Brian Laundrie, and you guys know he laid out in a field for freaking 5 weeks while they had this massive manhunt. And they thought they were tracking him. I heard a lot of the same things coming out of law enforcement's mouth with Brian Laundrie's, case, when he was on the run. And they moved the search much like they did. They thought they were tracking him, and they weren't. He was deceased in a field. So it makes you wonder, with everything going on in this man's life, that's why I'm so intent on finding something that's connecting him to that area. And we haven't really had much of a press conference here recently. And I know they've got to be getting frustrated. Law enforcement, they're working around the clock. This whole entire manhunt has been handed over to the U.S. Border Patrol. And it just makes you wonder, what they found that keeps leading them to believe, other than, I don't believe he's left the area. Even in the other case, that was the constant talk. Did he slip through? I personally don't believe Travis Decker left the area. I'm not one that thinks he's on the run. I'm one of those people that, based on everything I'm hearing, until I hear that something is attached to him specifically, I just don't see how. I can see how somebody can avoid law enforcement, and I can see how somebody can, be on the run and be lay in the fields, get into water, really try to avoid law enforcement. But I've never heard of a person being able to live off the land without showing signs of living off the land. There's got to be a place to sleep. There's got to be a place to use the restroom. Your body's functioning, whether we like to talk about the functions of a body or not. They still function, and those body functions produce a scent. So, I just need more, and I'm just not getting what I'm looking for from law enforcement to get me off the fence that he's truly on the run. So, I don't know if that goes into yours, or this is truly a manhunt. Only time will tell, only time will tell. I just hope they get him, whether or not he's here with us or he truly is on the run. I want to make sure he's not a threat to anybody else. And I think a man that's desperate, that just unalived their 3 children, are capable of doing just about anything. And that's pretty scary. And that should be scary for anybody sitting in Washington State. And I know law enforcement likes to tell people that this is an isolated incident, but this man unalived 3 children. We're not talking about adults here. We're not talking about a person that got in a fight and he just lost his cool and went too far. We're talking about somebody that law enforcement said planned this a week before. And, nobody was the wiser. This is a man that's highly skilled, military trained, was in an Afghan war vet. This is a dangerous man without having even one piece of artillery or equipment on him. He's a dangerous man just with his hands. He's been trained well. And he's lived in this environment and off the grid for a really long time and knows how to do it. But I can guarantee, even in the 2.5 months that he's lived off the grid previously, and he had a 4-day head start. Lived off the grid actually, I think it was more like 50-something hours, but it was a significant head start. It would, to be honest with you, when I did the calculations, if he truly was heading to Canada, he could have been to Canada by the time they even found the girls. He could have already crossed the Canadian border by the time they even opened up the investigation on these girls, just based on the timing. Because from where they are to the Canadian border, walking, and that's paced at 17 miles a minute. And that was about 16 hours. So I'd have to think 16 to 24 hours, which is, 2 days. No matter how you flip it, it's about 2 days. He could have been in Canada as they were finding them. and they're still in Washington. But they don't believe he's left the area. I don't believe he's left the area. I think this is a Bryan Kohberger case. I just have this gnawing feeling, and it's gnawing at me so bad, and it's been gnawing at me so bad since they found those girls. Actually, not since they found the girls. What made it start being real, like a reality for me, was Whitney. It was Whitney's. It was Whitney's. What does it say? It was Team Trump forever. It's nice to see you. But it was Whitney's statements. It was her description of her husband that made me realize that we're dealing with, not a guy that's trying to shake child support, and we have those. There's a lot of nasty men out there that don't want anything to do with their children, their own children, because it costs them money. It's sad. But he's not. He doesn't appear to be that kind of guy. That's the problem I had. She has had his back. That's wild. I think she's just, I don't know. Hey, Diesel, it's nice to see you. I don't know, Frigid. She did have his back, but I think it's because she was in love with who he used to be. I think she was still in love with that great man that she knew before mental illness and a war. And I just think things changed him, and he's no longer that same person. When we got the interview of his brother, Thomas, his brother talked about, their strained relationship, how he always tried to make things work, to have a relationship with his brother. So could Whitney be in some type of denial about all of this? Maybe almost borderline Stockholm's, in a sense. She watched this man that had such promise just dwindle away to this. I mean, no, he's not. He hasn't been found, River. I wish he has. Good morning, though, love. I hope you're doing well. So, I don't know. But maybe it's partly denial. Maybe think about it. She had this, it looked like she did whatever she could to make a happy life for her family. And this includes Travis. We saw all those modeling. I got so many modeling photos. She made clothes. Whitney was making the most adorable kids' clothes imaginable. And the family was their models, for their, stuff like that. And he just seems so happy. I've got just litters of photos of him just with his children. I mean, This is the man that she remembers, okay? This is the man that I think she remembers. She remembers this happy man that loved his family. Well, a war coupled with mental illness, coupled with no resources, it took that away. And she's still in love with this man. She's still trying to find this man. And I think that they were just all in denial because this is who they knew. This is who they wanted to remember. And they couldn't possibly believe that this could possibly turn into that. And I think all of this is just pure denial. Because look at him. This is not our normal story, folks. This is not... It is hard to believe. But this is not our normal story. We don't usually have situations where you have amazing parents that love their children, and you have this sane individual that knows what he wants in life, and then you come back and you get a broken man that's volatile, violent, feels worthless, and then he files for divorce. He realizes he's the problem. He doesn't want to, he felt worthless. He didn't feel worthy of his family, according to everything we were learning. And he was trying to still support. He went into the National Guards. He was making $80-something thousand a year. He was able to support his family. And then his mental decline got into such a situation that his commanding officer didn't want him re-enlisting. They were basically told him they're done. And that's when his life was falling apart. He lost his other family, the military. He now started losing his job. He lost his job, lost his place to live. In 2023, his mother also passed away. And then he's in the real jeopardy of losing, overnight visitation with his children. So what you're looking at is a man that's just, hitting rock bottom. And so when I heard that this happened, and I heard Whitney's description of him, and I have identified that there may be some denial in her, because even in his brother Thomas, because he said Whitney never stated she was ever concerned for her safety or her children's safety. That it was basically inappropriate that every time they stayed the night with their dad, they had to camp. And it wasn't that he was putting them in harm's way, and we all heard the court hearing related to that matter, and he just wanted to be able to have overnight stays with his kids. He didn't see how camping was a threat to their safety. So, I don't know. It just seems like a very broken man to me. And I'm not trying to sympathize with him. What he did was wrong. There is no sympathy here. I'm sorry. Children are, above all else, my drumbeat. There is no sympathy. There's a lot of people that feel hopeless and helpless and don't do this. So there's no explanation. There's no rationale or anything, but I am trying to understand how we got here, and understanding how we got here is making some concessions too, right? This man wasn't a bad guy. How did we get to a bad guy? And that's where I'm trying to come in, and I'm trying to be understanding. I don't want this happening to another family. This is Travis Decker. He's on the run right now, largest manhunt right now in Washington State. And the federal agents are hot on his trail. He's accused of unaliving his children. That's Sheriff Mike Morrison. So we're just trying to understand why. We're trying to understand where he could be. And we're just trying to make sure everybody knows who to be looking for. His face, his demeanor. I wish we had some videos out that could show how his normal walk is. We got to hear his voice, which is good, because those are things that you can't change. You can with practice, but you're not going to be fluent to be able to change the way you talk overnight. You just can't. So I'm curious about this. I hope this comes to an end peacefully, but there is a piece of me that just believes that Travis is also gone and they're chasing a ghost, or they're chasing another felon running, kind of like what they did with Brian Laundrie. But only time will tell. And I know that law enforcement has a wealth of information that the public just doesn't have. But until we have something connecting him out there, there's no proof he is moving. And I just want the proof that he's moving. I don't need to know what it is. I just need to know that they've got something. That's what I'm trying to decide. And so far, out of all the press conferences we've been providing, they've always fell short of providing that nugget of information. And again, it doesn't go to the integrity of the investigation, because if he's on the run, then he has to know people are chasing him. Otherwise, he wouldn't be on the run. So the idea that he doesn't know that he's got the federal agents up his crawl, it doesn't go to the integrity. He has to know at this point that people are searching for him if he's here. So I think they can give us a little bit more, and I really do hope that their next press conference, they just give us that nugget of information that just solidifies he's moving. I just want to make sure that they found something. A campsite. You guys get what I'm trying to say, right? Like you just can't exist without showing some signs of existence. We have bodily functions. I'm just going to leave it at that. They should have something. I'm just saying. We should have a collection sample somewhere, okay? And so far, we haven't found any of that information yet. And yes, I am talking about, bodily functions, pee and poop, okay? Show me the poop, damn it. Show me the poop. That's where I'm at, okay? So enjoy your day. We will be back. I'll give you guys some more updates on Travis Decker. But that's really what I'm after here, guys. And I know I'm making kind of light of it, but it's serious. Is he moving or is he not? Because the one thing I'm so concerned about is that they left the area he could be in or could be found in to go off because they may have had a sighting of someone. It could have been Travis, or it could have been somebody else living off the grid that does not want to be bothered, or maybe another criminal altogether. So that's why I just want these nuggets of information, and I just want something to connect him to an area. It doesn't matter if it's the area that he's in. I mean, they can now be processing something from the Ingalls Creek area, and that may attach back to him. That he was out of the Ingalls Creek area last week. So again, no integrity of investigation issues to be had there. But they can say, yeah, we found a campsite and we did get some items and the DNA matches. Now we know he was absolutely in Ingalls. That means he is traveling. That means my theory that he's in the woods, unalive, wouldn't hold water. And I'm trying to get there because I'm trying to figure out which way I'm going. It's still a theory at this point, but I'm still trying to hone in on some information that may support or not support that theory. And so far haven't been able to.
Holy DoorDash drivers, we're hearing some breaking information in the Bryan Kohberger case that's going to blow your mind. As you know, Bryan Kohberger is accused of unaliving 4 University of Idaho students in their off-campus housing. His victims were Kaylee Gonzalez, Maddie Mogan, Xana Kronodal, and Ethan Chapin. We learned a lot about the fragile lives lost in this brutal attack while they slept.
We learned that there was a food delivery to Xana Kernodle, and that food delivery, it's around 4 a.m., 4:12 in the morning, literally moments, and I mean moments, before all 4 of them would be deceased. Well, this lady, the delivery gal, okay, we didn't know who she was. They kept her identity out of the public. We kind of learned who it was. We've kept her identity out of the public eye. Other people have disclosed who she is. Apparently, she got picked up on a DUI or something related to driving, and she most likely, while she was under the influence and really worried about, oh my gosh, I'm going to jail, maybe, trying to schmooze a little bit, everybody does it when they're in trouble and they think they're going to go to jail. They will work it. Okay. They're going to try to get themselves out of going to jail. Some days when I was just tired of arguing or whatever, I'm just like, just fucking take me. Again, you guys know my history. We've talked about it. It's been public all over social media for a long time, just let's go. That's about it. Some of them are just like that, and long story short, you some days you try to argue, some days you don't. Okay, well, she must be, this must be her first rodeo or something like that. Maybe not, I don't know her history. And so she starts telling, this law enforcement officer, she's a witness in the Bryan Kohberger case, and she goes on to utter this. Now, mind you, this isn't another case. This is now something that's not going to be able to be sealed by the courts. And so now it is all public that apparently this delivery food lady, the way I'm understanding it, when she went to drop off the food, parked by Bryan Kohberger, saw him. Now, I hope she's not lying about this to try to get herself out of trouble with the cops, that the defense can say, wait a minute, you said you didn't see him that night. Well, I didn't. Well, in this statement you told the police, you did see him. Which is it? Did you see him or did you not see him? Which statement should we believe? You see how this is going? So I'm praying to God she actually saw him and this was a true slip, that she's going to be able to be on the state stand and point to Bryan Kohberger and say, that's the man I parked next to. Where did you park next to him? Outside of the house at 1122 King Road. Bombshell. If she was going to get up on the stand, but she kind of let the cat out of the bag, maybe. But again, I don't really trust people that are under the influence of substances or alcohol. And some of the statements that they make, sometimes they make very truthful statements, truthful statements that had they not been drunk, they would not have made, because they were secret statements that they were not supposed to share. So you get the both sides of it.
The unknown individual here claims to be the DoorDash driver that delivered the food to Xander Kernodle around 4 a.m. She says she saw Bryan Kohberger. Was this just a way to get out of trouble? Or is she truly going to be able to say Bryan Kohberger was in front of 112 King Road?
Well, good afternoon, my true crimies out there in the ether here on TikTok. I'm Bullhorn Betty. I cover true crime, and it's been a while since we discussed the Bryan Kohberger case, but as you guys might be aware, I just dropped a video on this. We have some updated information, and I'm not quite sure how I'm taking it. So we've got informed that there was a witness, an alleged witness. We know that one of Bryan Kohberger's victims did have a to-go food order that was delivered to their home. And it sounds like it happened minutes or seconds before, tragedy struck inside that home. Bryan Kohberger is accused of unaliving 4 University of Idaho students on November 13th, 2022. And for a really long time, almost a month, a little over a month, we didn't know who we were searching for. We just knew that these children were deceased. Somebody went inside their house while they slept and used a K-bar knife as the weapon of choice for this particular assault. And since then, there was a massive manhunt. Many of you guys were here on TikTok and YouTube watching me and Chronicles of Olivia out in front of 1122 King Road, where these individuals were unalived. We went to a lot of different places. The K-bar knife has never been located and has never been found. We're learning that that delivery driver may have seen Bryan Kohberger. She may be testifying that she saw Bryan Kohberger. This is pretty significant. Now, I do want to caution people. I understand that she was, picked up on driving under the influence. I also heard that she blew a 0.0 breathalyzer, but that doesn't mean, and we all know, it doesn't mean that she wasn't under the influence. She could have been tired. I don't know what's going to end up coming about from this person. And I'm praying to God that she, out of nervousness and trying to get out of a DUI, didn't just, impeach herself as a witness. What do I mean by impeaching as a witness? So when you're caught being dishonest, for example, if she previously told law enforcement that she was there and didn't see anything, and then she gets picked up for this DUI and tells these officers that she's a witness and saw him in a car, the defense is going to impeach her on that because she gave under oath testimony stating that she didn't see him, and then she gave other under oath testimony when she was arrested that she saw him, and this could cause a lot of problems. And if she didn't see him, and this has broke and is public, whenever they probably will not even call her on the stand if she lied. And now that it's public, they may have just booted a witness that could have, potentially put him there. So we don't know what's going on. I don't know if she's believable or not. I don't know anything about this person, but apparently law enforcement thought she was under the influence of something while she was, operating a motor vehicle. So If you're operating a motor vehicle and you're under the influence, even medication that doctors prescribe, it still might not be safe for you to drive. Prescriptions can still get you, even with doctors, everything above board. It's depending on what you're taking, you could potentially get a DWI for operating a motor vehicle even under prescription from your doctor. So be very, very, very careful. If something makes you drowsy or loopy, do not get behind or operate a vehicle while you're under medication. I don't know what she was on. She clearly wasn't on alcohol, so they do believe she was under the influence of something, however. So that's kind of where we are with this case. I'm glad I had the privilege of going out and learning about the tragic souls that were lost in this brutal attack. Many of you know that we had an opportunity to interview Kaylee Gonzalez's mother and father, as well as her sister, Olivia. And it was very difficult when we did that. And I will tell you, the one thing Chronicles of Olivia and I had decided in that interview was we weren't going to put the parents in a position of having to explain who they thought did that. We didn't think that was fair to them because they were emotional. We focused more on the bond that the girls had in our interview. That was something that resonated with us. I think that resonates with a lot of young folks out there that are going to college with their best friends. I think their story is really, to me, beautiful. They found each other in middle school. They were practically inseparable. It sounded like an amazing friendship. And if we could all just be blessed with that kind of friendship, we would all be very, very lucky. And I think Chronicles of Olivia and I identified that going into this. We had strategized how we were going to handle that interview. And by the time we were done, I think it was more beautiful than I could have imagined. I will tell you that by the time I was done, I had to excuse myself because I was a face full of tears. I was fine up until the end, and then on top of their TV stand, they didn't even have the urns for the girls yet, and there was 2 boxes. And I remember Christy just looking at me and saying, "They're still together, And I'm like, "They're still together?" And she goes, "Yeah, they're still together." And she pointed up there. And when I saw them, it just was so emotional for me that I just looked at Olivia. She could see I was welling up, and I'm like, "I'll be right back." And I had to go to the car and sit in the car and because it's that, like, this is their baby, and they're holding it together, and here I am, a blubbering mess. I didn't want them to see that, but it was really good, and I think we did a good job for them, at least at the minimum. So very honored that we had an opportunity to do that. Very honored that we had an opportunity to go out here, and I'm very thankful that Chronicles of Olivia and I did not get on the bandwagon of accusing all these people. We were going after legitimate information. And I just remember walking out there for the first time. Olivia and I pulled up. We were in our rental vehicle. It was so cold. My fingertips hurt so bad. When we pulled up into Moscow, Idaho, it was literally 17 degrees. I had never been in 17-degree weather, and I will just tell you, it was painful. But we kept rolling through it. I mean, I remember looking at Olivia and I'm like, my hands hurt so bad. I feel like if something touches my hands, they are going to shatter in a million pieces. But as soon as we pulled up there, the first thing I did was walk around the outside. They had the tape up. They didn't have the chain link fence up. So she was getting kind of, situated on our, because she's like die-hard filmer, all right? She's got to get the shot. So she's over there, scoping out the angle, trying to figure out where she wants to set up for her angle to get everything right and perfect. She's very much a perfectionist. If you guys haven't noticed, I mean, you don't get that quality of video editing from anybody unless you are like, what you want. And that's the way she is when we're out there. So she wanted to make sure everything was perfect behind her, that she had a great angle. So she was getting set up and I was walking around the house because I'm more of the investigative, looking. I'm trying to, get all this stuff, taking all this stuff in. And as soon as I walked back to her, I just looked at her and I remember the first words I stated to her when we were there. And those words were, "This is nobody we've ever even heard of." I just knew something on that trip just told me that whoever these people are looking at, it is not their friends. It's not these goofy kids that we're seeing doing stupid stuff. This is something different. I knew that as soon as I saw that property, and it took me going to the back of that house. But once I went to the back of the house and I realized how choppy this house truly is, it didn't make sense that this person was somebody on a mission. I felt that when I was there. So we didn't know who it was. I told people that I can tell you the person who did this is somebody we've never even mentioned. I remember saying that. I was on live on a YouTube channel, on my YouTube channel, Bullhorn Betty, when I made that statement. And it's turned out to be so true, because when Bryan Kohberger's name was brought up, I remember like, who? And just to let you know, Chronicles of Olivia and I were the first media, mainstream media or social media, that brought Washington State University into the mix. We just happened to be staying in Washington because it was cheaper for the hotel. And if you know, we have to budget I'm not getting into all of that. I'm not going to make this into a battle, whether he's guilty or not guilty. It's going to be going to court soon. So we'll hear the information soon enough. But we were staying in Washington because it was just cheaper. It budgeted for our budget. We were able to do the trip because of our rental in Washington. And so we went to this little coffee house, and it's called Zoe's. And I asked them if they can make this caramel white chocolate latte, because that's what I like. That's my favorite mixture is caramel and white mocha latte. And they made it, and they made it the best I had ever tasted it. So we had been there, but it wasn't the first time. It was actually our second trip to this coffee house, and we sat in this booth. It was the first time we sat in this particular booth. And Olivia and I were talking, and something caught my eye across the street. And I looked up, and I saw Washington State University. And I remember just grabbing my camera. I left my coffee, I grabbed my camera, and I just ran over. I did not have any clue that Washington State University was that close to the University of Idaho until that moment. And I remember going right out there and starting to record, asking, is it possible? Could this be a rivalry? Could this be something other than that? And when I looked at that news clip that I put out on social media, do you know nobody talked about Washington State University, and they still didn't talk about Washington State University for several more days? Nobody. We were the first to report Washington State University. But I tell you what, when Bryan Kohberger was arrested, it was game on. You guys don't know how cutthroat media is when we're having a breaking case. When you have like Bryan Kohberger, we had to research like literally on the moment, because we were rushing against CNN, Fox News, News Nation, to get out in front of the places he was, his dorm, his whatever hall that he worked at. And we were putting pedal to the metal, like we're running upstairs, we're trying to get there first. It is just that. So when we got there, we were there first, but then another car came up. We didn't know where we were going. They knew exactly where they were going. So they ended up getting to Wilson, whatever hall, like 5 minutes before we did. So by that time, all the media was starting to converge there, and you didn't know we were all there at the same time, because the way we did it is we had to take sections. So one person was on one side of the building, another reporter was on the other side of the building. We were on the front of the building, and then when we got done in the front of the building, we would go to the side of the building, do our shooting, and it was insane. But we were all working together to make sure everybody got out. But we were working next to, because we were trying to break the news just as quickly as the big guys. And I can tell you there were a few things that we got right while we were out there. And as far as the Kohberger knife, I'm going to tell you guys something. If you go back through the history, there's a place where he went and he never purchased one thing. And I think that was his disposal. And that was that grocery store. He went into the grocery store. He didn't purchase anything. And it's alleged that he went to the bathroom. So I truly believe he disposed of that K-bar knife in the Albertsons or whatever grocery store he went into, or he drove around back and tossed it in the dumpster. I think the K-bar knife is in the landfill. I think that that this is really the only place that I can find in his timeline that he would have had the opportunity to ditch that. Now we know that he went out to this forest area and he was out there for like 45 minutes. But I just don't think, because I know that place has been searched thoroughly. And I feel like if it was out there, they would have been able to locate it by now. But I can't understand what the grocery store trip was really for. There was a purpose for it, yet we don't see any purpose. So I know it was to dispose of some type of evidence. And seeing how the K-bar knife is really one of the only things that hasn't been found, and I don't know if they haven't found his clothing from that night either. We don't know. But if that's the only thing that hasn't been found, then I have a funny feeling he dumped it. And I feel like he dumped it at that grocery store. That's what makes sense to me. He didn't do this crime. We did look at the frat. We were out. Me and Chronicles of a Liberty did a full-fledged investigation. We were out there we did 2 tours out there. One before Bryan Kohberger. When we arrived for the second trip, Bryan Kohberger was not in custody. I was live out in front of the house when we were learning that he was in custody, and I got a different name by the name of Jason Eller. And that's the first face I showed. And I'm like, oh yeah, this looks like the guy. And then come to find out, they're like, oh no, that's the wrong guy. We sent you the wrong information. This is the guy. And I looked at him. I'm like, this is the guy? And this is like literally captured on live. Like I'm live and they're sending me this stuff and I'm looking at it. I'm like, what? And I'm just, if you looked at Jason Eller or whatever his name was, and you look at this guy, I'm telling you, I would have put my money on the Jason guy. But no, it ended up being Bryan Kohberger. And so that's when we're like, oh my gosh. So from that moment on, literally that moment, it was like the floodgates opened and we were just on go. We just had to grab our equipment. I'm glad we are mobile. We're more mobile. Social media on the when we're out there in the field trying to get this breaking news, we're more mobile than mainstream media is, because we have our phones, right? I have a vest that I can literally hook several phones up, or several cameras up to. Like we're mobile people. We're on the go. We know how to bring this stuff to people for front row, and we don't have big, large cameras. We do have heavy cameras. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I've got stuff for different takes and stuff like that. It really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. So this is one of the cameras. I've got a Canon. I've got several phones that I use, and I've got body cams that I strap up and suit on. But when we're out there, we're very, very much, we're more mobile than the camera people. This right here weighs, I don't even think 10 pounds, 5 pounds, 5 to 10 pounds, the whole setup here. And I'm going to end up having a screen added. I'm going to put a big screen so I can see what I'm doing a lot clearer. On this camera here. So it's just we get it. And that's what we ended up doing, and I'm glad we were there. And again, I remember we had just had the interview with Steve Gonzalez and Christy. And I remember when we were leaving, they said because they invited us to the memorial they were doing for the 2 girls that was separate from the school. And I remember Christy making a comment that her biggest concern is she's going to shake the hand of the person that did this. And how ironic that the day that they were having that service, and I'm sorry, some people just don't believe in, the Lord upstairs, but I do. And that day that they were having that service is the day we learned of Bryan Kohberger. They were able to have that memorial without the fear of shaking the person's hand that was responsible for their child's death. And I'm glad I got to witness that. And I'm glad I got to meet Kaylee as well as Maddie's boyfriend and hug them and let them know that, and we did. We fought for them very, very hard because people were being so nasty to them. And I'm glad we were able to do that. Anyways, guys, that's just kind of me going back in memory and just reliving, our time out there. If you guys haven't hit us up and looked at all the work we did on this, Chronicles of Olivia and I, in 2012, we were there. I think we were there in 4 days. We pulled up. This happened on the 13th, and I believe we were out there by the 17th or the 18th. We pulled up very, very quickly in this, so we had our hands on the pulse here. So go back and check that out. We're about to go to trial, and would like you guys to review some of the stuff that was done out there. It was pretty crazy. It was pretty intense. The stuff on YouTube really, I think, will hone in because it's a little bit longer. Back when I was in front of this house, I'd go live for 8 hours. But you can just fast forward it or just scroll through it and find different spots in it. And it has a transcript if you're looking for anything specific. But you have as much footage as you guys could ever muster out there in front of 1122 King Road between Chronicles of Olivia and me. So anyways, guys, you have a great evening. Just wanted to come here, give you guys the new update. I don't know what to believe. Did she really see him? Is she going to be able to be on the stand and point at Bryan Kohberger and say it was him? I saw him out in front of 1122 King Road when I delivered the food to Xana. That would change things, right? Now Dylan Mortensen isn't the only eyewitness. And actually, if she did see this man without his mask on, she will be truly the only eyewitness. That gives me chills. I can't wait to find out what else we don't know about this case. There's a lot. There's going to be a lot of twists and turns, and there's going to be a lot of bombshells. All right, guys, we'll see you soon.